Hey guys, welcome to another video from myself, Reagan. Welcome aboard to my YouTube channel. If you've stumbled across this, I hope you enjoy my content. Yeah, here we are, folks. We are here. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. We'll be flying around the US for a little bit. Haven't really done much flying around this part of the world, but I thought I'd get the old CJ out and I just came across a random flight. So yeah, we're going to be flying up we're currently at a place called Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport, as you can see on my Navigraph charts, and we're going to be flying over to Ronald Reagan Washington Airport, which at the moment they're flying in this tricky runway 19, so we'll be attempting that today as a real world flight simulator pilot. So here we are, early morning here. I might drag the sliders just a little bit just to bring a bit more light in, just a little bit. I think that should represent a nice early morning flight, but still get a bit of visual as we've punched through that low cloud, but dark enough to make it look like we are doing an early morning flight. So we are going to get into this cockpit here. It's all cold and dark, so we're going to come up here. We've opened up the doors, we've connected the ground power unit, so we'll just power it up. So we'll turn on the battery, turn on the ground power. Now we'll try and fumble our way without having to turn on the landing lights. So turning on the lights, so we'll go ahead and turn on all the lights like so. We'll start the APU, get that up and running, and we'll turn on the air conditioning, we'll turn on the fan, and we'll turn on the windshield heaters like so, and we'll just go across here and we'll just, where is that? What did I push there? We'll go ahead and we'll just turn on all of these lights so it's nice and bright. Get rid of the those rests, those armrests, and we'll scroll all of these up, get it nice and bright for us. Right, that's everything all nice and bright in the cockpit here, so we can now go through and guess we can align the RSs. I'm not sure if we do this now or not, but I'm just going to click it anyway. We'll flick this to standby. What else do we need to do? I guess we can start by, we'll turn all these hydraulics to auto, and we'll also turn these on, or arm the thrust reversers. Right, we'll load up our flight plan from SimBrief. Not too sure if, yeah, that's good. For a moment there I thought I had not synced it with my Navigraph charts, but it looks like I have. Right, we'll go in and we'll open up our flight plan. What's the weather doing out there? I thought I saw a bit of rain. Looks like it could be a drizzly, overcast day. We're going to do this manually, show you how quick it is to do it manually. So going from the very first YouTube video, so we're going to switch to zero fuel. We're going to enter in our estimated zero fuel weight, which is going to be 27,040. So we'll just make that We'll make it 27100. Make sure we enter it, and our block fuel is going to be 45. We'll make it 4520, eh? We'll make it 4530. So we'll set these weights in the simulator, and we'll set all. We're sort of getting a bit ahead of ourselves, so we better come in and align the aircraft. So we're going to be taking off from KBHN, entering it like so. Then we'll go across to the next page and copy these, the positioning, paste it into here like so. So that's our aircraft basically all aligned. I'm just going to push the magic B button, but it looks like the QNH is basically what it is there. Because we're flying in the US today, we're going to switch the baro to inches. Alright, we have done that, so we are now going to go ahead and enter our flight plan. So we'll start our SimBrief flight, and we'll request that, but we'll quickly go ahead and enter in our from and to KBHN, and we're flying to KDCA. And our flight number, it is one of the, I think that this is a real world flight number that I've found, so we'll just enter that into here. So you enter that for your flight number into here. Now we can execute that. And we're going to start our SimBrief flight. See what runway, so we'll enter the runway, the departure runway, before we do anything else, but we've been given clearance for 39,000 feet, but we'll probably just go to 35. I think that's a bit excessive for this flight. Alright, we've been given our runway, so we're going to be taking off from runway 24, and this SID here, we can now execute that, and we can now go back into flight plan and go ahead and enter in all of the relative fields, but we'll carry on scrolling up our altitude, get that set. Yeah, we'll make it 35,000 feet, hey? We'll travel it. $35,000 and we will, well, we think about it, we'll set our landing elevation, so go to our, but I believe it's almost sea level, this airport. Yeah, it is. We'll set it to 20, so we'll come up to here. We'll set our cabin pressure to 20, which should come up to here. And while we're here, we'll just sync our, get our runway heading. So our departure runway heading is 238, so we'll just scroll back the way to 238. Oh, is that bang on 238? No, not quite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 238. Sweet. So we can now go ahead and load up our flight plan. Right, our flight plan is going to direct us straight to Shia. And then our next flight plan is going to go to Kiblu. Just make sure that's correct, and then we're going to be flying on a jetway, so we'll be flying Q56 to Kiwi, almost like Kiwi the bird. Like so, and then waves, we're going to be flying the airwaves. And then I believe we'll see what FS HUD gives us from there on. Right, I'll just put drag FS HUD up there and just put navigraphs there. So that's our flight plan all done. And this FMC, FMS is pretty intuitive. It just goes for a nice flow like most of them do. And that's one jet I will get very soon, is the E-jet. There's so many routes that we can do with those aircraft, so I'm really looking forward to when Flight Sim Studios gives it a bit more of an update. So we can now, so as I was saying, this FMC, as you watch, it's very intuitive. You just go through like position in it, and then it goes into flight plan, and then you can now go into perf in it. And since we've kind of copied and pasted this over to here, we'll just check if it's looking legit or not, which I might just click it one more time. So that's actually, yeah, we have been using the APU, so that was the fuel that was training out, and now we're just entering flight level 350. Execute. And then before we go to VNAV setup, we're just going to go to the next page. We're going to enter in these details here. So our ISA is going to be +3. Oh, it's just going to be 3 for this one. And our wind is going to be, so push P for this field here, so +31. So we're going to be getting a nice tailwind, so that's great. And this one here, it's actually what I'm going to do is I've noticed this taxi fuel never really changes, so I'm going to set this. So I'm going to go into my index page, and I'm going into defaults, and I'm going to set my taxi fuel as 227. I'm just going to go through and just see what else I need to. So I'm going to change this one to 300/0.77. This is what I got for when I was watching one of the very first YouTube tutorials on a really good YouTuber, Fly Philbert. He had a real world CRJ pilot, and these are the fields that he did adjust that were what that guy's company did. So, and then the next one is descent, so it's 0.77/320. And we're just going to go across, make sure there's nothing else. I just clicked on that VOR thing. I'm not too sure what that does, but anyway, we'll go back into our flight plan. We've done our perf in it. We'll just go ahead, and we'll just update that to 27. I think that will be permanent when we reload our aircraft, and our reserve fuel is going to be 600 tons, I think. I get confused. I'm not too sure which one to use, if it's that one or that one. I know in the 737 PGMG, the YouTube pilots, the real world pilots, use that figure there, but this one, I think it's just the you just use this value here. Right, and we will now fly into our VNAV setup, so that we don't need to change. It's this one /0.77 for our cruise speed, execute, and then we go to the next field, so 0.77/320 for our descent speed. We'll execute that. And one thing we will do is we'll get this set up, so we'll set up our pilot flying, we'll set up for our VNAV, and we'll get rid of the airports because I find it too cluttery, but we'll set it up for our first officer. We'll select on, and we'll keep it out with the airports. Keep his page on with the airports. And maybe we should do a alternative flight plan. I haven't really done that before. Alright, we've done that. Alright, I think we're basically, I'm just going to try to see one more thing, see if those defaults have saved. So yeah, I think when we load up our next flight, it should, all those fields that we've adjusted will stay as they are. One more thing we will do is we'll get our flex temp, which is a new feature. Unfortunately, you can't change the runway. We are taking off from runway 24, so it's a shame you can't change the run. You have to reload the whole flight plan again, so we'll just go with that. Oh, we'll just go with flex 41A for the sake of it. So we enter our flex temp here. That's all done. Right, I think we're ready to set that. That's how fast it is to set up your flight plan. It's very easy, very much self-explanatory. It's got a nice flow. And we'll now remove the jetway, close up all the doors. We can turn off, oh, what did I click? Turn off the AC power, turn on the fuel pumps, disconnect the ground power and remove the shocks. I'll just go outside and make sure the aircraft is closed, but we've got one door still open. We'll click on the chocks again just to close that door. Right, I think we're ready to go, folks. We'll go on terrain radar for our takeoff. Yep, so I've got the terrain radar on, and we will turn on our beacon light. We'll just see which way we're going to be pushing back. So we're going to be pushing back to the left, taxi out to the right, kind of. Right, we'll just get taxi clearance. By the time we taxi back, we'll be ready to taxi out. So yeah, we'll come up here, we'll arm all of the signs, and we'll hold this down for 3 seconds until it lights up, and that's the engine 1 starting up. Once it gets to around about 10-15, we can now turn on the power. Just watching where we are taxiing back to, so we're going to be pushing out to the left here. And we can now turn on our transponder, this one here. And I think we are pretty happy. We'll remove the tug, and we can now, I think we're now ready to, start our next engine. So we'll hold down on the start, wait for it to light up, come back down to here and wait for it to spool up. Now we can engage the fuel. We can now turn on the steering, nose wheel steering. I'm just trying to think what else we need to do. Spend a little, oh yeah, that's right, we'll set the trim, so we'll go back to performance, return to load sheet. 8.3 is our trim, so we'll come up to over here and we'll just push whatever trim button you've got it set to. I've got it set to 1 and 7 on the number plate, on the notepad, the number pad. Was it 8.3? And right, I think we haven't selected, we need to update our runway we're actually taking off from, so it's 24, and we are going to be using what I presume is just the yeah, just the standard runway heading fly out kind of deal. Yeah, we can now turn off the we can now turn on this hydraulic here. We can now shut down the APU. We can now turn on the taxi light. We'll turn on these lights too. The navigation light should have been turned on when I first got into the aircraft, but that's not to worry. Right, what else do we need to do? That's all set. We'll have it selected for our legs page, and we will just bring up this just to see what the whole deal is with our departure. So our initial climbs, once we get above 2,300 feet, then I'm assuming that we'll get vectors for our next part of the flight. So we will, still got this warning here, so I'll come down here and we'll just re-engage the yaw dampeners. We can now release the brakes, and away we go. We'll turn on the flight directors as well, and we'll find the little magic click spot, and we'll turn on our takeoff mode. We'll set our flaps to flaps 8, and that means we I did notice nothing was coming out, it was crossed out, so if that's crossed out when you hit that takeoff mode, if it's crossed out, it means there's something you've missed, and that was, for me, the flaps, which I've just deployed, and that's cleared, and we've got this thing saying takeoff config is all good. We'll go for packs off takeoff, so we'll come up here and we'll turn off our packs, and we'll go to manual crossfeed mode for our takeoff, which is in your checklists. That's something I've just remembered. It's amazing what you do remember when you've flown this aircraft long enough, and you don't have to fly it long enough to really remember all of the checklists. And like I say, I'm not a real world pilot, I just fly to fit in around my busy schedule, so that means I am not too phased about going through all of the different tests and stuff that a lot of flight simulators do. Yeah, the whole point about these videos is just showing you how quickly you can get flying with the least amount of knowledge, and then you build up that, I'm just setting that to local time, and then you just build up that local, I guess you just build up that confidence. The more you do it, the more you feel comfortable flying this aircraft, the more you start wanting to add more realism into your life, and that's when you can start doing your various tests and whatnot. Right, we are now coming up to our departure point. Right, I'm going to turn on my landing lights, turn on my strobe lights, just have one little check up here, turn on the air conditioning. That must have turned it off by accident. And it's time to head on over to Washington Airport, and we'll see how well we conquer that airport. Right, I'm going to engage heading mode, get that ready, and speed mode 2, I think. So when we when we go to autopilot, hopefully we'll hold the indicated airspeed, which is the set indicated airspeed, which is 150 knots, and hold our heading. Right, we're ready to go. Right, we are clear to take off. One thing we will do is we'll turn on our... Oh, this turned on. Oops. And we've got aircraft coming into land, so we better just get going. No messing around. So set the throttles to takeoff, toga, and away we go. Hopefully we'll get up in the air before that aircraft gets anywhere near landing. Alright, any minute now we'll hit V1 and VR rotate, which we can do now. A landing gear can now come up. And that's a really nice departure out. Perfect amount of time for that aircraft to come into land there. Maybe a bit slightly borderline there, but we've made it. We'll just pitch up our nose, follow those little bars there. And we can now start scrolling up our speed to 220 to begin with. We'll start pitching down. And we might as well turn on autopilot. Flaps can now come up. We'll select it to 220 to begin with. Last station flaps can now come up. We can now turn off these, disarm the reverse thrusts. Then we'll come up here and we'll yeah, I forgot. I know what I did there. I had these lit up. I forgot I'd turn off the packs, but when I first saw them I was like, oh, I haven't turned on the air conditioning unit. So yeah, we did it packs on takeoff, which is It's just no big deal at all. There's a little mine there, that's pretty cool. Right, we're going to turn left to 220, it's just around about here. We can now, don't forget, put your throttles back to climb mode. Now we've just been given our direct to we'll go to navigation mode now. Oh, we'll turn on our pitot heat too. Right, we'll roll up our speed to 250 knots. And we have been given our, I guess when you're given our flight level, we're just going to standard mode, don't we? So I'll just push the, so the B on this plane, it does engage standard mode, so that's good, and it syncs across the whole, both cockpits. It is a really, like, when I first got this aircraft way back, this was the very first, this is the, I'm just going to go to this page here. I like this page, it shows you the altitudes and stuff. But yeah, when I first got this plane, I had no idea how to fly these complex aircraft, and I was just learning how to fly the Airbus at the time, and I just assumed that it was like the Airbus and like flying I thought it was like exactly like flying in Flight Simulator FSX, when you just had this generic autopilot function. Right, I'm going to scroll my speed up to 290 now for my climb. And yeah, I just thought that, I thought it's just logic, you just push speed and you just load up a flight plan in just a default flight plan through the Microsoft planning system, and I just thought, oh yeah, I just push autopilot, that's going to be my auto throttle, and away I go. But it was definitely not like that at all, and it was a very steep learning curve, actually to the point where I thought this plane was unrealistic, it's crap, like why do I have to learn how to do all of these? That's a nice climbing up over the clouds like that. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to have to learn how to program this thing, that's not what I signed up for. So this aircraft basically just sat in, like effectively just sat in the hangar collecting dust. It became a very expensive dust collector because this was the very first, like in Flight Simulator FSX, I never brought any foodware, I was just default as kind of thing. And I'm going to go to weather radar. Actually, I'll turn on the weather radar, which is over here. So I'm going to go weather radar and we'll see what that does, and we'll turn off the terrain. Sweet, so we'll see if there's any weather. And yeah, this aircraft just became a very expensive dust collector, and it wasn't until, I don't know, like, I guess, so yeah, this cost like 60 or 70 US dollars when this first came out, so it's very expensive. And it wasn't until, I don't know, 6 months after I bought this aircraft that I really started learning how to program the FMS and the Airbus, and I was getting really confident with that, and I thought it shouldn't be hard to learn this, because I really thought I that whole thing of teaching an old dog new tricks kind of thing, you can learn new tricks. when I got this Microsoft Flight Simulator when it first came out, I was 35, 36, and 34, and coming across from FSX, I never knew how to operate these things. As I said, all of the aircraft had these little boxes you can click to follow a flight plan on your GPS. That was preloaded. When the old FSX, you could load up a flight plan, and I thought I'm never going to learn how to program these things that look far too complicated. I'm never going to understand it. Getting pretty down about myself, but yeah, it's just one of those things. If came to the point where push came to shove, and I realised if I do want to fly the Airbuses and stuff like that, like I really wanted to, I enjoyed following all the real world procedures on Flight Radar 2024. On Flight Radar 24, I realised I'm just going to have to learn, and it really was like riding a bike for the first time. I had YouTube as my trainer wheels. I had a good TV at the time, so I just cast my YouTube to the TV, and had the laptop, which I've run to this very day. Just changing this to 35,000 feet. I was using the laptop, flying this, and I was going for, like, literally it felt like riding a bike for the very first time, using learning how to program the Airbus FMS. And back in those days it was really hard too, because updates were coming in pretty thick and fast, and every update would just break things left, right and centre, so you just feel like you're getting nowhere kind of thing. Who remembers those days, like Sim Update 2, and when you deployed the flaps, your aircraft ended up going through the stratosphere kind of thing? Like, all of those annoying bugs at the time, when you think back, they're like sort of retro-ass when you think about it. But yeah, it took me actually didn't take me long at all to learn how to master the Airbus A320. Once you get into it, it is so intuitive, it's so self-explanatory, it's so easy when you actually like, I thought I was a very dumb person, but when I was with a bad memory, but when I was learning it, it actually wasn't hard at all to learn how to operate these FMCs, and it's just, as I said, it's so self-explanatory. So yeah, I learnt that, and then I realised I had this plane sitting in the hangar, and I was like, oh, I really should learn how to fly this. Mainly because I spent X amount of money on this thing, so I learnt how to use this properly, and I used Fly Philbert. He was a really good YouTuber, and he had this real world pilot who flew these aircraft, which is why I was setting up those things before. And yeah, for setting up this FMS, I realised this is really easy to set up. I actually really enjoyed flying this aircraft because I like driving manual cars, and flying this is the closest you can get to driving a manual, and the Airbus is a bit like driving automatic. Once you've mastered it, it's actually nothing to do. You get to the point where it's just boring, and then flying this really felt like driving a manual car. You have to, as I realised, that speed thing only works when you're climbing, so it sets that speed, it sets the pitch, and the rest is all, it does it all itself. But once you level out, you have to use manual speed, you have to manually set the speed, and I really enjoyed flying this aircraft. For a lot of faults people complained about, because it's funny, I'm flying, getting into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, I had no idea about high fidelity. I didn't care, I just wanted something simple and easy, and then once I started learning, I realised simple and easy was actually really annoying, really frustrating, and a pain in the bum, especially when you got aircraft that fly in real world with RNAV, VNAV, and it doesn't work. But what I was trying to get at is this aircraft to me felt like I had all of the fidelity in this aircraft that made me happy. I think there are a few other like real world pilots or people doing real world flying in VATSIM complained about this aircraft not being able to do holds and that sort of thing. That didn't really bother me, but I do believe now this aircraft does holds, and I do believe this aircraft is in a really good state. So I was happy back before this version 2 update. It really did everything I wanted it to do, and yeah, I'm really happy with this aircraft. And I haven't flown it for a while now, but coming back into it, it's like anything. It's like jumping on the bike it's like jumping on a bike when you know how to ride. You feel a bit wobbly and you're just a bit slow, but once you get into it, it's just muscle memory really. You just get straight into it and you know exactly what you're doing. And this is just when you actually step back and look at it, it's a very easy aircraft to fly. It's a very easy aircraft to operate. It's very fun. I really enjoy flying this. Yeah, and you can even, now that you can even open up the cockpit door and you can have a look around at the back, which is a great feature. I'm trying to remember where the door is. And yeah, you can now go into the cockpit like so. Yeah, no, I really do enjoy flying this aircraft. It's a pleasure to fly. Alright, we'll sort of carry on what we're doing. We'll sort of speed it up a bit. We can now go into Mac mode, so we'll just scroll that back to 0.7. And once we get to cruising altitude, we can now pull back the throttles just a touch. Just to this little screw here, just to keep it above that screw, and that should just hold the speed nicely. It will start speeding up, but it'll only get to a point where it stops speeding up. It might be just a bit too slow. We'll just put it up a bit more. See, it's holding now, still dropping a little bit. Maybe just a touch more. Maybe just a touch more. I know you barely need to pull the speed back, but that should be fine. Right, we will leave you there, folks, and we'll get back to the fun part, the landing. So we'll see you guys very shortly. Sweet, so we've been given our arrival, so we're going to now program that in. So we're going to go RNAV Y19, and we're going to go with the cat SS3, which is this one here. Going to execute that, and we're basically near our top of descent, so we're just going to just start our descent now. We're going to use this page here. We're going to try and select our I forget how we do this now, but right, we'll select 21,000 feet. So we're going to use our vertical speed, and we're going to select 2,400 feet per minute. So we'll just scroll that down like so. So this gives us what our required descent rate is. So we're going to stick with, so it's gone up to 26, so we're just going to scroll that down to 26. But what you need to do is, the easiest thing I do is you go off that, but you also just use your little snowflake there that will give you an idea on where you are on your profile. So we're just going to clear that discontinuity there. I better scroll that speed back to, I'll just pull that speed just a little bit back, we're going a bit too fast. But I'll scroll that altitude down to below 21,000 feet. Alright, we're just going to change the speed now to 320, bearing in mind that we are pretty close to its maximum speed there. We'll just throttle back just a little bit more. What we can do is we'll go to our performance page and we'll just bring up select our landing speeds first, and we'll leave the VREF to last. Right, we'll select 10,000 feet, eh? And we have given borough now, so we're going to push B and we're going to select We'll just scroll it back just a little bit for 2999. So we've set that. Is that set over there? Yeah, it's set over there as well, so perfect. Just increase the rate of descent just a little bit more. Oh no, we'll decrease it. Keep that back on track. What we will do is we'll just pre-select that speed because we want to be, we've got a speed restriction coming up at flips waypoint, so we're just going to bring that back so we're ready, so we've got an idea on what the speed is. And we'll increase that rate of descent a little bit more. So I think what we do is we set our descent to the most restrictive so we've got this one here, 2,000 feet, so we'll select where is it? Yeah, I think we're on profile, we're doing good. We'll pull that speed back just a little bit, we'll bring out the spoilers. Oh, and I'll just change my descent, my altitude down to 10,000 feet. Right, we're going to set our speed to 250 knots now that we're going below 10,000 feet. And we'll turn on our landing lights. Oh, our landing lights were already on. Yeah, everything's all set. So set our speed to 210. Our reverse thrusts so all set. I do find this is really slowing down for some reason. So just a little bit too high there, but that's alright. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've flown this, so I've just a little bit behind the ball there, but we're back on track. So 7,000 feet we're now going down to. Yeah, we seem to be doing good. We're just keeping that little snowflake thereabouts. And if we wanted to, we can go down to 900 feet per minute, and we'll aim for 6,000 feet. Release the speed brakes just a touch, just to get that speed back up again. Now we'll just set a nice, we'll set 2,000 feet now, eh? So 1,500 feet per minute. It's really hard to read these numbers sometimes on a little laptop. Alright, I'm not too sure what we're going to do here. Will we be getting vectoring here? We'll find out. I'm going to reduce the sim rate. We're going to turn right 190, 160. Alright, I think we're getting to the point now we need to start actually slowing down, so we will... That's why I like Flight Simulator 2024, it really gets the detail there. But I really need to focus on what I'm doing, get that speed brake out a little bit more. Alright, I'm going to now I think I'll go into nav mode now and fly that approach. Right, this is really showing how little I've prepared for this arrival. RNAVY, add to route. We'll just set our speed for our arrival. Right, we're going to start slowing down, get these slats and flaps and gear down.
Terrain.
Right, we're just going to go full configuration for our landing. And I'm just going to go into turn off autopilot now and just fly this last bit ourselves. I think we're a little bit too low here as we're flying past. I believe the White House is just over there somewhere. There it is there. Yeah, we're far too low for this, but that's alright. This is probably one of the worst landings I've had here. It's been a while and I've got a bit behind here. Here we go, coming into land.
Sync rate 200.
And we seem to have made that alright there.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And that's us touchdown. Right, that landing was probably one of the actual approach was probably not my best approaches, but we've made it. We're just going to pull off over here, get off the runway. Vacate this runway and we'll figure out where we're going after this. Right, that's our landing, folks. We were a bit all over the place there. That's definitely not my best landing. Right, we'll now turn on the APU, get that fired up. And we'll turn off our landing lights and our strobe lights. And yeah, I think that's all we need to do. Yeah, just before there was that moment where I was just really silent, wondering what I'm what I'm doing. But here we are at the stunning Ronald Reagan airport here in Washington. It is a really nice. This is one of my second or third ever purchases on Flight Simulator, and don't know why I purchased it. I had no idea what the whole logic was, but it's definitely a very nice, very lovely terminal, that. Right, we'll turn off our flight directors, we don't need those anymore. I think we can disarm these reverse thrusts. And our APU is turning on, so that's good. But I like to do this in the 737 actually with the Airbus with the RNAV VNAV, see how they perform. That'll definitely put it through its paces. And we are fast approaching our parking bay. And this is our bay in here, so just put on the brakes just a little bit. And this will be our stand here, so we can turn off our taxi lights. And just here will do perfectly. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that flight there. I was a bit iffy towards the end there. I really was not paying attention. We're now going to shut down both of these engines. We will now turn off this hydraulic. We'll turn off the seatbelt signs, turn off the strobe lights. We can I think, oh yeah, we'll turn off the pro peters, the pitos, so no one burns themselves, and then we can come into our aircraft. We can engage the chocks, open the doors, put the put the arm rails down. We'll open up these doors, and that is us, guys. We've made it. We're alive. We managed to land without too much difficulty, and we'll see you again in the next video. We'll take off here and we'll head off somewhere else. And yeah, until then, have a good day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you again in the next video.